Hi, it's me, Chris, and welcome to the future. It sucks. Want to go back in time with me? Back to when things weren't so lame? Well, too bad, because we're going anyway. Woo!
Wow, this is even worse. I had forgotten how much the world sucked before we invented colors. And look at all these old people. And to think that, like, each of these people lived their own lives, each was the main character of their own stories, they had their own worries and ideas, and yet now, in the present day, each and every one of them has been lost to history, completely vanished from time. Here we go.
Alright, so this image is really just one snapshot of what life was like in 1861. We will never know the names of, well, almost anyone in this image. Now that could just be because they were all super boring, but I doubt that that's the only reason. As time passes and the Earth continues spinning like a large spherical Beyblade, more and more of our history is lost to time, slowly but methodically erased. Real quick, let's time travel again. 60 years after our funny little photograph here in 1921, a shocking discovery was made across the world in Zambia. Apparently that's a country. I've never heard of it, so that must have been the only interesting thing to ever happen in Zambia. Basically, one peaceful June day, two miners were working in a town called Broken Hill. It wasn't usually too hot this time of year, but it didn't matter once you got working. You'd find yourself sweating bullets either way. You also wouldn't usually take many breaks with all the work to do, but today these two men found themselves pausing from their work as they uncovered something in the midst of the mine. A human skull. Sure enough, more fossils were soon found and donated to London. We now know that these fossils are some of the oldest human remains on the planet. Scientists estimate that this skull in particular, nicknamed the Rhodesian Man, is about 300,000 years old. But I mean, come on, it obviously looks way closer to 200,000. We will never know this person's true name, and we'll never really know what life was like for this man thousands of years ago. The only thing we do know about this man is that he was probably very ugly. And out of all the random everyday people who lived back then, the Rhodesian Man is one of the ones we know the most about. Most people from this era of history will have lived and died without ever leaving a trace of their existence. It's not like any of them could create a TikTok account and post their whole lives there. They only had Facebook. Of course, as time went by, this did start to change, and we eventually invented ways to keep records of our own history and preserve our own memory much more efficiently. Yet even once the first civilizations appeared, our history was not immune to time, and keeping humanity's collective memories intact was challenging, to say the least. Empires like Rome, which were heavily chronicled during their existence, still managed to just lose important parts of their history. Some ancient Roman figures, like the Emperor... what's his name? I don't know how you pronounce that. Some ancient Roman figures, like the Emperor Sylvanicus in particular, is only really remembered by a few old battered coins that we found in the 20th century. These people were a part of the lives of so many others. I mean, this guy was supposedly an emperor, even if it was only for probably a very short time. People must have known who he was, but now we don't. We have no more records of him, and we probably never will. Sylvanicus was an emperor of Rome, formerly the greatest country in the world, and now he's barely even a footnote in history. 100 years ago, before finding any of these coins, we had no idea he had even existed. He had been forgotten. He was no more prominent in humanity's memory than the ancient Rhodesian Man from long ago. But you know what? We can do even better than that. An emperor vanishing is one thing, but an entire kingdom being lost to time is even more surprising. Hey Green Freddy, have you ever heard of the land of Punt?
Not at all. The name doesn't ring a bell.
Well, that's not surprising, Freddy. Punt was actually a land that was a massive trading partner of Egypt back in the day. You know, Egypt, the place that made all the big triangles?
I love triangles.
Egypt basically said that they used to trade with this place called Punt quite frequently. But the thing is that now nobody knows where it was anymore, which is really weird because Egypt said it was a great place and it was home to countless riches that other cultures wanted to get their hands on, but now we just have like very little information on it. Why do you think that is?
I don't know, man. I'm just an inanimate object. How are you even talking to me like this?
I have no idea, Freddy. I think I'm just clinically insane. Basically, Punt was such an important place to Egypt that they never thought it was important to write down its exact location. Everyone would have already known it, so why waste resources writing it down? Which is really funny to us in retrospect because, like, the Egyptians wrote everything down, but it just never occurred to them that at some point in the future someone might not know where the specific land of Punt had been. We've had to really fight to get any clues about Punt's location. For example, we know that Punt and Egypt traded baboons, and we still have some of those mummified baboons, and those baboons only come from certain places on Earth. They don't just live anywhere. So that kind of helps us pinpoint a rough location of where Punt was. But I mean, come on guys, stop building those giant triangles and help us out here. Okay. Oh, that is way too low. Maybe I'll stand. Oh, okay. Nope, that doesn't really work either. Okay, I guess we'll just do this then. One person vanishing into the folds of history is already surprising, but for an entire kingdom to do so, I mean, that's just more surprising. The truth is, we are notoriously bad at preserving our own history, and the vast majority of people who've lived on this big spinning rock have died and been forgotten. Lame. We just don't have great ways of preserving everything that's happened everywhere. Oh, wait a second.
The internet, one of humanity's greatest and worst achievements. A massive repository of everything our species has ever done, thought, or said. That is terrifying. In the 21st century, we have so much information at our disposal that we don't know what to do with it all. Ironically, the internet has grown so massive that now one of the only things we don't know is the actual size of this massive web of information.
We can only really estimate how large the World Wide Web has become. Some estimates range as high as 100 zettabytes or larger, and I know that that number probably doesn't mean much to you because, like, what is a zettabyte? I don't even know if I'm pronouncing that right. Lucky for you, I've got this handy visualization here which we can use to figure out how big that actually is. Okay, look at this image. This image takes up a certain amount of space on your computer, specifically 1 megabyte. If you had 1,000 of this image, you would have 1,000 megabytes or 1 gigabyte. That's enough to store all of Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame. 1,000 of those would be 1 terabyte, that's enough to store 1,000 Minecrafts. 1,000 of those would be 1 petabyte, that's enough to store the amount of videos uploaded to YouTube in just one day, about 720,000 hours of video to be exact. Okay, 1,000 of those would be 1 exabyte, that's as much storage as the entire European Organization for Nuclear Research. 1,000 of those would be 1 zettabyte, that's more than Google, Apple, and Meta combined, and 100 of those is the estimated total size of the internet, maybe even bigger.
If we wanted a place to store the world's history and keep it safe for centuries to come, I think we found it. No more being lost to history like the Rhodesian Man or Sylvanicus or Punt. That is the funniest name ever.
Most people born in the last century will have some kind of record online. Right now, you're watching thousands of pictures of my face being broadcast to you from across the world, perfectly recreating this little moment of my life. And that's using just little squares on the screen. You have direct access to more of my life than most actually influential people in history. For most of our time on this silly little globe, we really only remember the truly outstanding, the ones who actually broke the mold and stood out and did something unique or terrible enough to warrant being remembered. I think I've prattled on about this insane thing we've created for long enough. Obviously, the internet provides a very convenient place for us to store humanity's memories. It's kind of a miracle, but it's still not perfect. The world still forgets. Several decades ago, back when the internet was still new and nobody knew what a Reddit or a Twitter was, it was up to individuals to create their own websites and their own archives online. If you wanted a personal home on the internet, you would make a website. Now, these days, if you want a place on the internet to call your home, you could just make an Instagram page or a YouTube channel. But back then, you'd have to make one of these. And sure, they look really ugly in retrospect, but they're also way more interesting and personal than a typical modern-day Facebook page. This actually lets the personality of the individual shine through in the very design of the website itself. Not everyone cares for that kind of customization, but that's also because a lot of people are just boring. Now, sadly though, most of these websites are gone.
erased from our biggest, greatest information repository. Domains expire, hosting issues pop up, or the creator just simply doesn't think it's important to keep a website running 20 years after it started. Even today, people say that once something is on the internet, it stays there forever, but that's not entirely true.
Sure, websites can be archived by tools like the Wayback Machine, but that's only really if someone cares to archive it in the first place. You can find archives of the world's most popular websites. Look, here's what Google looked like 20 years ago. And here's what YouTube looked like when I was just a little tiny, adorable, very adorable baby. But if you want to see what like zephyrAirTransport.com looked like 3 years ago, I mean, good luck.
But even though our digital landscapes themselves don't always stand the test of time, our personal lives are still very well documented, right? Every one of us probably has pictures, videos, documents, and remnants of all kinds scattered across the web. Even if we're not counting the internet, just in our general day-to-day lives, we have so many ways of leaving a mark that we didn't have in the past. And yet our world is still full of forgotten people. Millions of people go missing every year worldwide. Most of them get found again, but some just don't. And considering the fact that we have cameras on basically every street corner, that is surprising. Somehow, even today, if you really wanted to, you could probably just disappear. Okay, now let's go back in time one more time to 2003. I guess I should probably dress according to the time period so I don't stand out too much.
I'm sure I'll be fine.
We're going to Angola, right about here. Back in May of 2003, if you went here, you would have probably come across a man named Ben Padilla. Ben Padilla worked at this airport that I'm not going to try to pronounce because it would just be embarrassing for me. Night was swiftly approaching by the time that the plane he was working on, a Boeing 727, was ready for flight.
Of course, Ben had not been working on this plane on his own. With him was a helper, one John Mutantu. Now, while both of these men were experienced when it came to working on these vehicles, only Ben knew how to fly a plane, and he certainly wasn't trained to fly a large 727 like this one. So it was pretty surprising when the plane began to roll across the runway, with both men inside and lift up into the dim evening sky. The transponder on the plane had been turned off, which would normally be used to track it down. Of course, now that was not an option, and the plane just vanished. Now, as you can imagine, it's pretty bad for a massive plane to just go missing with two men inside, so a frantic search began to find them, but neither the men nor the plane was ever found again. Now, the messed up part is that the one thing Ben is known for most is his disappearance. He's remembered by most people because he vanished off the face of the earth, not in spite of it. Thankfully, Ben is still remembered by his family, his friends, and the countless people around the world who want them to be able to see some kind of closure to this tragic story. In the 21st century, people still vanish from the Earth's memory, but we do have more resources now than ever to find them. That doesn't mean we always will, but considering the fact that the number of overall missing people goes down each year, we're making progress. Slowly but surely, we're making progress. I cannot come up with a good way to smoothly transition into the next part of this video, so I'm just going to do it. Geometry Dash! Okay, I promise this is relevant. Geometry Dash. It's a pretty simple game. Tap the screen and this little guy jumps. Continue doing that to jump over the various obstacles in your path, and congrats, you kind of get the gist of it. Of course, it's a little more complicated than that. This game allows anyone to make their own custom level with unique obstacles and challenges to overcome, and of course, with such a big player base, it's bound to get very difficult. The level you're seeing right now is called Kinos, one of the hardest levels in the game. Now, for a Geometry Dash level to actually be posted for others to play, it has to be verified, and someone has to prove that it's actually humanly possible to beat it. For most levels, this wouldn't take too long, but for Kinos, it took over a year before anyone could properly complete and verify it. That person was a player by the name of Enpesta.
Welcome back to everyone's favorite game show, trivia show that I have not come up with a name for yet. In today's question, how many attempts do you think it took Enpesta to beat Kinos, the level Kinos, in Geometry Dash? Your answers are A, 139 attempts, B, 420 attempts, C, 1,199 attempts, or D, 5,640 attempts. And the answer is D is still wrong. D is wrong. They're all wrong because the actual answer is it took 135,320 attempts to beat this one level. For context, there are less than 90,000 seconds in one day. So this is just absurd.
Here, for your viewing pleasure, are the final moments of Impesta's winning attempt at Kinos. Now, you might have seen this clip before elsewhere on the internet, and I wouldn't be too surprised if you did. This reaction was originally uploaded to Impesta's YouTube channel, and in no time had become a massive internet meme. This guy's face was plastered in front of everything from Five Nights at Freddy's to Minecraft to black emoji speedruns to... In a way, Impesta had become internet famous. At least a part of him had. This one snapshot in time had become immortalized, shared and reshared millions of times before the original creator became inseparable from this one moment of his life. Months later, Impesta uploaded a video sharing his experience becoming a meme, and it's fascinating.
First, I was like, okay, it's probably going to be annoying for a little bit, but it will go away. Yeah, it will go away. Every single day I get like a billion DMs regarding it. And this isn't like a pity party for me and stuff like that. It's just, this is how stuff goes. And it just wore me down. It put me in a really bad spot. And I tried my hardest to get out of it. I'm still kind of in it. It's not an easy thing. I know it sounds so stupid to get upset over something like a meme. It hurt, man. Like for months.
People were not laughing with Impesta, they were laughing at him. This made the achievement very hard to look back on for him, made even worse by the fact that this moment became Impesta's identity. This moment became the sole thing that he was remembered for. I mean, I kind of get why. Out of context, it's okay. It's pretty funny. In the digital age, for the first time ever, we are less likely to be completely forgotten than we are to be remembered for just one thing. It's become kind of normal for people to be boiled down to a single point in their lives, a single point that gets memed and shared and cemented in culture while the person behind it is overshadowed by it. We know Hyde the Pain Herald, but we don't know Andres Arato. We know this blinking guy, but we don't know Drew Scanlon. We know the Giga Chad, but we don't know Ernest Kalimov. It's a strange phenomenon that really couldn't have happened at any other point in history. Now, all these people are doing fine, I'm sure. Impesta in particular has created a thriving YouTube and streaming career, and doesn't seem too bothered these days by the looming shadow of that meme from years ago, even if it still probably is what he's most known for.
Memory is weird, to put it simply. For most of human history, it really wasn't all that permanent, and the vast majority of people were lost to time. From some of the very oldest humans to even some who only lived rather recently. Even entire kingdoms can apparently just vanish. Recently though, with this whole technology thing, why did I do finger quotes? Recently though, with this whole technology thing, everyone seems to leave much more of a mark than before. Even if it's sometimes only for tragic reasons. Everybody gets their 15 minutes of fame. Sometimes it's even just for that one funny thing you did while playing Geometry Dash. Some people, like this guy, can even become niche internet micro-celebrities with entire encyclopedias written just about their lives. I don't think that's a good thing, but it's a thing that exists. These days, memory is powerful and permanent, and everything seems to get documented in some way, shape, or form, and most of it will probably last for centuries to come. Probably more. One day, someone will think about you for the last time in eternity. You will be forgotten by the world and the universe. Not if I eat the Mona Lisa. Truly profound. I mean, as a personal believer in the afterlife, I don't really think that we are ever truly forgotten because I don't think we ever truly go away in the first place. And I'm pretty sure that eating the Mona Lisa would be very poisonous, so that's something else that I would object to here. But there is a nugget of truth in this image. For most people, their legacy won't be eating the Mona Lisa, but everyone has the possibility to leave some kind of legacy behind. Just replace this with whatever you want to be remembered for doing. Whatever Mona Lisa you want to eat. This is a really weird metaphor, but we're just gonna go with it. I think it's good to create something that will outlast you once you're gone, something worth remembering. That can take almost any form, and as long as you leave the world in a slightly better place than you found it, that won't be forgotten. Not completely. We all have the possibility to do something worth remembering. We all have a Mona Lisa to eat. We all have a Mona Lisa to eat. What will be yours?
Hey, thanks for checking out my dumb, stupid video. If you want, you could like the video, and if it gets to 200 likes, I will buy this shirt that's on screen right now, and I'll wear it for the majority of my next video, which is a commitment that I guess I'm making right now. I want to give a shout out to today's highlighted creator, Mummy Joe, a creator who is pretty popular on other platforms, but on YouTube, a platform that you can actually monetize on, just seems to have not as much of an audience. So check that out. The videos are super funny in my opinion. Also, I want to give a shout out to my patrons. That is Sketch Arts, Evan Agradano, Connor Stearman, and Luna is the best. They are, for some reason, giving me some money to make these stupid, garbage, stupid, dumb videos. So thanks for that. And thank you all for watching. I'll see you very soon. Bye-bye.